pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Hayang magiliw, helos na silanganan, alab ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, tuyang ka ng magiting, sa banlulupi, di ka pa sisingil, sa tundok. Hindi. Sa sinulan, sa langit mo buga, may dilagang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang islap ng matawag mo'y tagumpay na nagdidibig, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may di magdidilig. Lupa ng araw na buwan, aking pagsinta, buhay langit sa piling mo. Ang ligaya na pag may mga api, ang matay ng dahil sa'yo.
Almighty God, you who guided our ancestors, we offer unto you this prayer of thanksgiving and ask for your blessing as we celebrate our past and we our present. We praise you for the great privilege you have given us as we gather today and celebrate the accomplishments and triumphs we have achieved as a community. We pray that you will deepen our sense of gratitude as we look forward with eager eyes to the future. Help us to look beyond our walls and acknowledge that we are nothing without you. May you continue to make your love known among us and help us create an impact now and in future generations. As we remain inspired by our endless grace and abounding mercy. Amen.
Good morning, everyone. Hi, I'm Mia, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to this virtual public consultation on the draft Department Circular prescribing the framework for the integration of waste to energy in the country's generation mix to implement the clean energy scenario under the Philippine Energy Plan 2023 to 2050. Supplementing Department Circular Number DZ 2021-11-0036. Today, we are gathered to present the draft circular and, more importantly, to hear your insights and feedback on the significant policy initiative. Your participation is vital in ensuring that this framework is comprehensive, inclusive, and responsive to the needs of all stakeholders. Before I continue, allow me to acknowledge Undersecretary Rowena Cristina L. Guevara, Undersecretary Maylene C. Capungol, Assistant Secretary Myra Fiera Roa, our directors from the Renewable Energy Management Bureau, Attorney Marisa P. Cerezo, and Ruby B. De Guzman, and also my colleagues from the Biomass Energy Management Division, headed by our OIC Division Chief, Ms. Ana Nico J. Rialo. Also with us are our colleagues from the DOE's Legal Services and Office of the Secretary, who have been with us throughout the crafting of this pioneer WTEDC and have given invaluable support. Attorney Gabriel Corpus, Attorney Felmore Amor, and Attorney Leslie Astrid Costales. And Mr. Ferdy Pinon. Moreover, we are grateful that you have accepted our invitation. Thank you for being with us virtually today. Also, we are live in the Department of Energy official Facebook page. So before we begin, let's quickly go over a few house rules to ensure a smooth and productive session. First, set your microphone on mute to minimize background noise during the meeting. Also, turn off your video unless asked to turn it on. Second, during the open forum, please wait for the moderator to recognize you before unmuting your microphone. To formally open our consultation, may we call on Undersecretary Rowena Cristina L. Guevara for the opening remarks.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, ma'am.
Magandang araw po sa inyong lahat. On behalf of the Department of Energy, I welcome you all to this public consultation on the policy framework for the commercial development of waste-to-energy or WTE projects. We thank you for taking the time to be part of this dialogue. Today's consultation marks a pivotal moment in our nation's energy and environmental landscape. As we face the dual challenges of growing electricity demand and mounting pressures on municipal waste management, we are presented with a unique opportunity to transform our waste problems into clean, reliable, and indigenous energy sources. In line with the Philippine Energy Plan 2023 to 2050 and the Clean Energy Scenario, this proposed framework aims to pave the way for the commercial development of WTE projects and to position them as key contributors to energy security, environmental sustainability, and circular economy. The draft circular lays down policies to support what we call pioneer waste-to-energy projects that will be constructed and installed not later than 2027 and will serve as the country's first movers in this critical space. It outlines incentives, streamlined permitting, preferential grid dispatch, and government support to ensure their success. More importantly, the draft circular emphasizes the protection of host communities, environmental safeguards, and collaborative mechanisms with local government units and national agencies. But we are fully aware that success in WTE integration, especially at this early stage, cannot be achieved by policy alone. It requires careful listening, constructive feedback, and strong coordination among all stakeholders, local governments, environmental agencies, utilities, private developers, the finance and waste sectors, and of course, the public. This consultation is not just about finalizing a circular. It's about shaping a shared vision for what responsible, sustainable, and community-aligned waste-to-energy development should look alike in the Philippines. We invite you to raise and share your insights, concerns, and suggestions. Whether you're coming from a technical, legal, environmental, or community perspective, your input is essential in helping us ensure that this policy framework is inclusive, practical, and grounded in both science and social responsibility. With your active participation, we hope to bring this policy into implementation, not as a one-size-fits-all solution, but as a platform for innovation and partnership in our shared pursuit of clean energy and better waste management. Thank you, and may we also stay in positive energy throughout the day.
Thank you very much, Yusek Dev. for clearly laying out the urgency and the vision behind this policy framework. We now move on to the main agenda of today's program, the presentation of the proposed department circular on the integration of WTE in the generation mix. This presentation will walk us through the policy objectives, the overall framework for WTE integration, and the key provisions outlined in the draft circular. Let's watch the presentation.
To the officials of the Department of Energy, to the officials and representatives of government agencies, and to all participants, good morning. The Department of Energy, through the Renewable Energy Management Bureau, conducts the public consultation for the proposed department circular on the framework for the integration of waste to energy, or WTE, in the Clean Energy Scenario, or CES, under the Philippine Energy Plan, or PEP, of 2023 to 2050. The draft department circular consists of 614 lines spread across 7 rules. Without further ado, the proposed department circular is hereby presented to the public. Department Circular Number Blank, Framework for the Integration of Waste to Energy, or WTE, in the country's generation mix to implement the clean energy scenario under the Philippine Energy Plan 2023 to 2050, supplementing the Circular Number DC 2021-11-0036. Whereas Republic Act, or RA number 7638, otherwise known as the Department of Energy Act of 1992 as amended, mandates the DOE to ensure an adequate and sustainable supply of energy through the integrated development of indigenous resources and efficient utilization of energy technologies. Whereas RA number 9136, otherwise known as the Electric Power Industry Reform Act of 2001, or EPIRA, provides for the development of environmentally compatible and socially acceptable energy resources and the integration of new and renewable energy sources into the country's power generation mix. Whereas Section 37H of RA number 9136 empowers the DOE to exercise supervision and control over all government activities relative to energy projects in order to attain the goals embodied in Section 2 of RA 7638. Whereas RA number 9513, or the Renewable Energy Act of 2008, or RE Act, declares the policy of the state to accelerate the development, exploration, and utilization of renewable energy resources to reduce the country's dependence on fossil fuels and mitigate greenhouse gas emissions. Whereas Section 6 of the RE Act requires all stakeholders in the electric power industry to contribute to the growth of the RE industry of the country. Whereas Section 30 of the RE Act provides that the DOE shall, where practicable, encourage the adoption of WTE facilities and, in coordination with the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or DENR, ensure compliance with said provision of law. Whereas on 22 December 2017, the DOE established the RPS rules for on-grid areas through Department Circular, or DC number DC 2017-12-0015, entitled Promulgating the Rules and Guidelines Governing the Establishment of the Renewable Portfolio Standards for On-Grid Areas, or RPS on-grid rules. Whereas on 24 August 2018, the DOE established the RPS rules for off-grid areas through DC number DC 2018-08-0024, entitled Promulgating the Rules and Guidelines Governing the Establishment of the Renewable Portfolio Standards for Off-Grid Areas, or RPS off-grid rules. Whereas Section 10 of DC number DC 2017-12-0015 and Section 9 of DC number DC 2018-08-0024 consider RE facilities utilizing WTE technology as eligible for compliance with the minimum RPS requirements of on-grid and off-grid mandated participants, respectively. Whereas on 1 February 2018, the DOE issued DC number DC 2018-02-0003 entitled Adopting and Prescribing the Policy for the Competitive Selection Process or CSP in the Procurement by the Distribution Utilities of Power Supply Agreement for the Captive Market, which aims to ensure transparency and competitiveness in the conduct of CSP through wide dissemination of bid opportunities to ensure participation of all eligible and qualified generation companies. Whereas on 24 September 2021, the DOE amended and supplemented DC number DC 2018-02-0003 through DC number DC 2021-09-0030 entitled Amending Certain Provisions of and Supplementing DC number DC 2018-02-0003 on the Competitive Selection Process or CSP in the Procurement by the Distribution Utilities of Power Supply Agreement for the Captive Market. Whereas on 3 November 2021, the DOE issued DC number DC 2021-11-0036 titled Providing the Revised Guidelines for the Green Energy Auction Program in the Philippines or JEP Guidelines, which aims to support and or facilitate immediate and timely investments in new or additional RE capacities and thereby ensure availability of adequate supply and competitive rates of electricity in the country. Whereas Section 8 of the JEP Guidelines provides that the ERC shall determine the Green Energy Auction Reserve or GEAR price under the auction round procedure. Whereas the particular number DC 2022-02- policies and programs to promote and enhance the development of biomass waste to energy or WTE facilities was issued to enhance the electric power industry in the development of biomass WTE facilities. Whereas Section 5 of Department Circular number DC 2022-10-0031 titled Declaring All Renewable Energy Resources as Preferential Dispatch Generating Units in the Wholesale Electricity Spot Market, amending for this purpose Department Circular number DC 2015-03-0001 provides that the DOE may grant preferential dispatch status to any future emerging RE technologies that may be approved by the DOE. Whereas the Philippine Energy Plan or PEP 2023 to 2050 includes a clean energy scenario or CES aimed at accelerating the energy transition through the diversification of energy sources, including the strategic integration of WTE technologies. Whereas the integration of WTE in the country's power generation mix represents a strategic approach to addressing the dual challenges of growing energy demand and increasing solid waste generation in line with RA number 9003 or the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act of 2000. Whereas there is a need to establish a clear and consistent policy framework to guide the commercial development, regulatory oversight, and grid integration of WTE facilities in the Philippines. Now, therefore, in consideration of the foregoing premises, the DOE hereby issues, adopts, and promulgates the following policy framework for the integration of WTE in the country's generation mix. Rule 1. General Principles. Section 1. Title. This circular shall be known and referred to as the Policy Framework for the Commercial Development of Waste-to-Energy Projects in the Philippines. Section 2. Guiding Principles for WTE Integration. The government shall promote a conducive industry environment for the commercial operation of WTE facilities guided by the following principles. Section 2.1. Energy Security. WTE facilities shall provide a stable, indigenous baseload and or flexible energy source of electricity by converting municipal solid waste, industrial waste, and other eligible feedstocks into power. Section 2.2. Environmental Sustainability. WTE shall complement national and local solid waste management goals, minimize the use of and need for sanitary landfills, and reduce methane and greenhouse gas or GHG emissions, consistent with applicable laws, rules and regulations, and international agreements. Section 2.3, Circular Economy. WTE shall be treated as a vital component of the circular economy by maximizing the value of waste streams to the end that the loop on waste and energy is closed. Section 2.4, Grid Integration. WTE facilities shall be included in the Transmission Development Plan or TDP and Distribution Development Plans or DDPs supported by System Impact Studies or SIS or Distribution Impact Studies or DIS. Section 2.5, Offtake under the Green Energy Auction Program or JAP, Alternative Offtake Agreement. Special auction rounds for Pioneer WTE projects shall be conducted under the JAP. Capacities from Pioneer WTE projects which are not under the JAP shall be contracted by DUs and other off-takers. Section 2.6, Competitive Pricing. In setting the reserve price and/or electricity rates for WTE capacity, the ERC shall, without prejudice, other considerations set forth in RA number 9136 and other laws, take into account other benefits derived from WTE facilities employing thermal combustion technology, as, but not limited to, health, waste management, reduction on the need for sanitary landfills, and greenhouse gas emissions reduction, and shall use the appropriate and prevailing representative WTE project. Section 2.7, Community Benefits. Host communities of WTE facilities shall benefit from employment, livelihood programs, and environmental safeguards and shall receive direct and tangible benefits in accordance with Energy Regulations number 1-94 or ER 1-94 and other applicable national policies. Section 2.8, Compliance with Environmental Regulations. WTE facilities shall comply with Department of Environment and Natural Resources or DENR Administrative Order number 2019-21 entitled Guidelines Governing WTE Facilities for the Integrated Management of Municipal Solid Wastes or any amendment thereto and other relevant rules and regulations. Rule 2, Policy Framework for the Pioneer WTE Project. Section 1, Definition and Recognition. WTE projects employing thermal combustion technology to process MSW of highly urbanized cities or HUCs or clustered LGUs constructed and installed not later than 2027 shall be considered as Pioneer WTE projects eligible for priority permitting, dispatch, and other incentives provided for in this circular. The sites of Pioneer WTE projects will be issued by the DOE through the relevant auction round procedures and terms of reference under the JAP. Multiple Pioneer WTE projects in an HUC or clustered LGUs shall only be allowed if the volume of MSW of such HUC or clustered LGUs is sufficient to sustain operations. Section 2, Roles and Responsibilities of the Department of Energy. Section 2.1, within 30 days from the issuance of this circular, the DOE shall, Item 1, explore alternatives for the role of the government in the Pioneer WTE project, including public-private partnerships or PPP, joint ventures, or full private sector-led development, while ensuring alignment with national solid waste management and energy policies. Item 2, study options for financing and funding mechanisms specific to WTE technologies in coordination with the Public-Private Partnership or PPP Center of the Philippines, Department of Finance or DOF, Department of Economy, Planning and Development or DepDev, and other relevant agencies or institutions. Item 3, plan with the transmission network provider or TNP and system operator or SO to ensure that appropriate transmission infrastructure is developed in time for the commercial operation of the Pioneer WTE project and that it is incorporated in the Transmission Development Plan or TDP. Item 4, design to ensure full offtake of energy output from the Pioneer WTE project, including power supply aggregation and direct contracting with industrial or commercial customers. Item 5, evaluate possible policies in coordination with the Energy Regulatory Commission or ERC for the integration of WTE-generated electricity into the power supply planning of DUs, electric cooperatives or ECs, and the National Electrification Administration or NEA. Item 6, formulate policies to maximize benefits for host LGUs and communities of WTE facilities in accordance with the ER1-94. Item 7, identify priority WTE locations, including HUCs and SLFs, and assess waste supply viability in coordination with LGUs, the DENR, the DILG, and the NSWMC. Item 8, identify policy interventions to address cross-sectoral concerns related to WTE projects, which shall include but shall not be limited to ensuring feedstock assurance and establishing municipal waste supply agreements, enhancing interagency coordination on solid waste segregation, transport, and pre-processing, and promoting public education and stakeholder consultation. Item 9, ensure that Pioneer WTE projects with offtake arrangement under the JAP have assured feedstock supply. Item 10, identify and propose additional incentives for the Pioneer WTE projects in recognition of their dual role in energy generation and waste management. And item 11, coordinate with all relevant government agencies, LGUs, regulators, and industry stakeholders to ensure the smooth implementation of this circular and to monitor progress toward the integration of WTE into the Philippine power generation mix. Section 2.2, the Renewable Energy Management Bureau, Biomass Energy Management Division, or REMB BEMD of the DOE, or any subsequent or successor entities or bodies shall, in addition to their respective mandates under existing laws, guidelines, and regulations, have the following responsibilities. Item 1, provide technical assistance to the developer of the Pioneer WTE project throughout the planning, development, and operational phases. Item 2, assist and, if necessary, alert concerned agencies and entities on the actions required for the timely delivery of their responsibilities under this circular, particularly on matters related to permitting, interagency coordination, and grid integration. Item 3, consolidate and monitor developments made by concerned agencies and stakeholders and provide periodic updates and reports on the status of actions and commitments under this circular. Item 4, coordinate with other relevant agencies and entities beyond those explicitly mentioned in this circular, including but not limited to the DENR, NSWMC, DILG, and LGUs to support the implementation of WTE-related policies and address cross-cutting challenges. Item 5, lead in negotiating with HUCs or clustered LGUs to the end that Pioneer WTE projects under JAP have assured feedstock supply. Item 6, lead or collaborate with development partners in the conduct of capacity building activities for relevant agencies and stakeholders on WTE technologies, environmental and emission standards, and energy market integration. And Item 7, perform other duties and functions as may be assigned or delegated by the Secretary in support of the effective implementation of this circular. Section 3, roles and responsibilities of other government agencies or instrumentalities. Section 3.1, Energy Regulatory Commission or ERC. Within 60 days from the issuance of this circular, the ERC shall, Item 1, formulate the rules and guidelines for the determination of the appropriate price-setting methodology applicable to the operation of the Pioneer WTE project. This shall include, among others, the establishment of a reference price or tariff range for electricity generated from WTE facilities using current reference projects and prevailing costs, and the necessary regulatory adjustments to accommodate WTE into the Philippine Grid Code, Philippine Distribution Code, and the Open Access Transmission Service rules. To this end, the ERC shall adopt a pricing regime that considers the capital-intensive nature of WTE development, such as a regulatory asset base or RAB model, or a similar long-term cost recovery, recognizing the environmental co-benefits and long-term operational horizon of WTE plants. 2. Adopt a policy for minimum contract periods for power supply agreements involving the Pioneer WTE project with a base term of 20 years starting from the project's commercial operation date, extendable based on the assessed economic life of the facility and consistency with environmental compliance. Item 3, set the necessary rules and incorporate allowable costs for refurbishment, pollution control equipment upgrades, and long-term maintenance during the commercial operations of WTE facilities consistent with cost of service regulation principles and subject to applicable environmental and energy regulations. Item 4, establish the rules and requirements for the issuances of Certificate of Compliance or COC for WTE facilities in coordination with the DOE, DENR, and other relevant agencies to ensure regulatory alignment and the safe, compliant integration of WTE into the power system. Item 5, conduct capacity building programs in partnership with the DOE's REMB BEMD, the National Solid Waste Management Commission or NSWMC, and other development partners to build institutional and technical expertise on WTE pricing, permitting, and operational monitoring. Item 6, provide other regulatory support as may be necessary to achieve the objectives of this circular and to facilitate the effective integration of WTE into the country's generation mix. Section 3.2, Transmission Network Provider or TNP and System Operator or SO. The TNP and SO shall, Item 1, maintain close and regular communication with the RE developer of the Pioneer WTE project in the course of planning, construction, grid connection, and operational integration. This ensures that all relevant information regarding the plant's technical design, operational profile, and safety protocols is provided to support the reliability, security, and stability of the power system. The DOE and its relevant agencies, including the National Transmission Corporation or TRANSCO, shall be included in these communications to ensure compliance with energy policies and to facilitate proper grid integration and system planning. Item 2, build the necessary transmission infrastructure and related facilities in a timely manner to support the effective integration and dispatch of electricity generated from the Pioneer WTE facility into the grid. The transmission network must be designed to accommodate the anticipated capacity of the Pioneer WTE project, consistent with its declared capacity under the Philippine Energy Plan or PEP and relevant grid impact studies. Item 3, issue the required System Impact Study or SIS within 4 months from submission of a complete application and ensure timely issuance of the facility study and transmission connection agreement to facilitate the grid connection of the Pioneer WTE facility. Item 4, in the next TDP following the issuance of this circular, include WTE Energy in the expansion and enhancement of the national grid, considering the specific operational characteristics of WTE technologies and aligned with applicable environmental and safety standards. Item 5, guarantee a priority schedule for testing and commissioning for Pioneer WTE projects in accordance with DOE's endorsement. Item 6, ensure the preferential dispatch of generation by the Pioneer WTE project as a base load. Item 7, build institutional and technical capacity within the TNP and SO to manage the entry and operation of WTE plants in the power system in coordination with the DOE, NSWMC, and other development partners. And Item 8, perform other actions as may be necessary to ensure the smooth, safe, and integration of the Pioneer WTE project into the national power grid. The DOE may seek the assistance of other government agencies government-owned and controlled corporations, local government units, and private entities as may be necessary to accomplish the objectives of this circular. Rule 3. Incentives for the Pioneer WTE project. Section 1. Incentives in support of the Pioneer WTE project in the energy sector. The following shall be the incentives in support of the Pioneer WTE project. Section 1.1. Incentive regime. An WTE developer may elect to avail itself of the incentives under the RE Act or the National Internal Revenue or NIRC Code of 1997 as amended by RA number 12066, otherwise known as the Corporate Recovery and Tax Incentives for Enterprises to Maximize Opportunities for Reinvigorating the Economy Act or Create More, unless the WTE developer signifies its intention to avail itself of the incentives under Create More at the time of issuance of Certificate of Registration, it shall be considered as having availed itself of the incentives under the RE Act. Once the WTE developer elects to avail itself of the incentives under Create More, such election shall be considered irrevocable and no incentives under the RE Act shall be allowed thereafter. Section 1.2, Certificate of Energy Project of National Significance. The Certificate of EPNS or CEPNS shall be issued prior to the formal submission of permit and license applications, subject to the DOE's evaluation of the project proponents' development plans, programs, and compliance roadmap. Pioneer WTE projects shall be given priority in permitting and regulatory processes, recognizing their dual role in renewable energy generation and sustainable solid waste management. Pursuant to Executive Order or EO number 30 series of 2017, such projects shall be automatically certified as EPNS. Section 1.3, Preferential Dispatch. Pioneer WTE project shall be granted preferential dispatch in the wholesale electricity spot market or WESM. Section 1.4, any DOE issuance to the contrary notwithstanding Pioneer WTE projects, regardless of capacity, shall be exempt from the conduct of CSP. Section 1.5, Assistance in Negotiations with Host LGUs and the Metropolitan Manila Development Authority or MMDA. The DOE shall extend full assistance to RE developers of Pioneer WTE projects in every stage of negotiations with the host LGU and, if applicable, the MMDA. Such assistance shall include, but not limited to, conduct of information, campaigns for the procurement of resolutions of support or no objection, facilitating compliance of DUs and other off-takers with Section 1, Rule 5 of this circular, and proposing mechanisms to minimize the economic impact of such compliance to consumers, such as through subsidies or on electricity bills sourced from host LGUs or MMDA savings on tipping fees. Section 1.6, Assured Feedstock Supply under JAP. The DOE, through REMB, shall ensure that a Pioneer WTE project under the JAP has sufficient MSW feedstock through appropriate memoranda of agreements with HUCs, clustered LGUs, or other government entities. Section 2, Conditions for Continuing Availment. The incentives granted to Pioneer WTE projects under this circular shall be subject to strict compliance with all laws, rules, and regulations, and the WTE operating contract. Rule 4, Policy Framework for Succeeding WTE Projects. Section 1, Role and Responsibilities of Government Agencies. After assessing the initial phase and operations of Pioneer WTE projects and to sustain the implementation of the principles under this circular, the following agencies and entities shall have the following roles and responsibilities. Section 1.1, Department of Energy or DOE. In addition to its functions under Rule 2, the DOE shall Item 1. Assess the appropriate mechanisms, arrangements, and platforms for the further integration and full offtake of succeeding WTE projects in the power system to ensure their financial and operational viability while maximizing their contribution to energy security and waste management. Item 2. Ensure that the formulation of the power supply procurement plans or PSPPs of DUs includes appropriate allocations or space for WTE capacities in a manner that aligns with each DU's optimal energy mix and in compliance with the EPIRA mandate to deliver least cost power supply to their respective franchise areas. Item 3. Conduct monitoring, coordination, and verification activities to ensure compliance with the rules, timelines, and requirements under the circular and other relevant policies. Item 4. Supervise and monitor the WTE supply contracts entered into by DUs. Item 5. Formulate policies to support further market-based integration of WTE projects, including but not limited to the potential establishment of complementary electricity markets such as a capacity market, a futures market, or waste credit scheme to incentivize the environmental and grid reliability contributions of WTE. Section 1.2, Energy Regulatory Commission or ERC. In addition to its functions under Rule 2, the ERC shall, Item 1, update, if necessary, the rules and guidelines for determination and appropriate price-setting methodology applicable to WTE generation, including the development of a tariff structure that reflects the dual benefits of WTE in energy generation and waste management. This may include setting benchmark tariffs or tariff ranges for WTE projects and enabling appropriate offtake arrangements with DUs and other eligible buyers. Item 2. Ensure the compliance of WTE project developers, DUs, and other regulated entities with the provisions on cross-ownership, market power abuse, and anti-competitive behavior under Section 45 of the Electric Power Industry Reform Act or EPIRA. Item 3. Impose fines and penalties for any non-compliance or violations under this circular and other applicable laws, rules, and regulations. Item 4. Provide other regulatory support necessary to ensure the efficient integration of WTE projects into the energy market and to achieve the objectives of this circular. Section 1.3, Transmission Network Provider or TNP and System Operator or SO. In addition to its functions under Rule 2, the TNP and SO shall, Item 1, construct, enhance, or modify the necessary transmission infrastructure to support the effective integration and distribution of electricity generated from WTE facilities into the grid, including provisions for future multi-site or cluster WTE developments and the reliable transfer of such generation to DUs. Item 2, formulate or amend the protocols for the dispatch of electricity from WTE facilities with consideration of WTE's role as a reliable baseload source. Item 3, perform other acts necessary for seamless integration, grid harmonization, and reliable operation of WTE projects within the national transmission system. Section 1.4, Independent Market Operator or IMO. The IMO shall, Item 1, conduct studies and assessments on suitable market mechanisms for WTE integration, including the potential adoption of models such as contracts for difference or CFD, waste diversion credits, or other incentive-based instruments that recognize the dual environmental and energy contributions of WTE projects. Item 2, establish efficient and transparent market conditions to facilitate the trading of electricity generated from WTE facilities, including participation in existing and future energy markets. Item 3, perform all acts consistent with the issuances of the DOE pursuant to the circular. Section 2, mandate of other concerned units. The REMB BEMD of the DOE or any subsequent or successor entities or bodies shall continue to perform its functions under Rule 2 and ensure that policies remain aligned with the development, integration, and expansion of succeeding WTE projects. The DOE may seek the assistance of other government agencies and instrumentalities, as well as private sector entities, to achieve the objectives of this circular relative to the development and deployment of current and future WTE projects. Rule 5, Supplemental JAT Guidelines for Pioneer WTE Projects. Section 1, Qualified Supplier, RE developers or generators, A, registered with the DOE pursuant to the Omnibus RE Guidelines, revised Omnibus RE Guidelines as applicable, and any amendment thereof. B, issued with COA under the latter before the start of the registration period under the applicable terms of reference, eligible to participate in the JEA as determined by the JEAC under Section 6.1 of the JEAP Guidelines, as amended, may participate in an auction round dedicated to or which includes WTE facilities. Section 2, Green Energy Auction Reserve or GEAR Price Determination. In determining the GEAR price for any auction round under JAP for Pioneer WTE projects, the ERC shall apply the reference price or tariff range, current reference projects and prevailing costs, necessary regulatory adjustments, capital-intensive nature of WTE development, environmental co-benefits, and long-term operational horizon of WTE plants, and other considerations mentioned in Rule 2, Section 3.1 of this circular. Section 3, Feedstock Supply Agreement. In auction rounds intended for Pioneer WTE projects, the winning bidder shall submit a duly executed feedstock supply agreement with the concerned HUC or clustered LGUs in addition to the post-auction documents set forth in Section 9.11 of the JAP Guidelines as amended. For this purpose, the DOE shall negotiate with concerned HUCs and or clustered LGUs for the latter's commitment to deliver the required MSW volume as feedstock to winning WTE projects. Rule 6, Alternative Offtake Arrangement. Section 1, Assured Offtake. A DU or other off-taker serving an LGU that hosts a WTE facility shall contract a portion of its supply from such facility subject to existing power supply agreements or PSAs, provided that DUs shall consider WTE projects in its Power Supply Procurement Plan or PSPP. Rule 7, Miscellaneous Provisions. Section 1, Applicability and Transition. Unless otherwise amended or subject to subsequent issuances of the DOE, all rules applied to the Pioneer WTE projects shall likewise govern the succeeding WTE projects. Section 2, Separability. If, for any reason, any section or provision of this circular is declared invalid or unconstitutional, the other provisions not affected thereby shall remain valid and subsisting. Section 3, Repealing Clause. All other previous issuances, rules, and regulations inconsistent with the provisions of the circular are likewise repealed or amended accordingly. Section 4, Effectivity. This circular shall take effect 15 days following its publication in 2 newspapers of general circulation or in the official gazette. A copy of this circular be furnished to the University of the Philippines Law Center, Office of National Administrative Register or UPLCONAR. Issued at the Energy Center, Rizal Drive, Bonifacio Global City, Taguig City on blank 2025. Sharon S. Garin, Secretary.
Thank you, BEMD, for the presentation, and thank you, everyone, for your attention. At this point, we shall proceed to the presentation of consolidated comments from the various stakeholders and DOE's response. To facilitate this, may I now turn the floor over to Ms. Gemalin.
So thank you, Mia. At this point, allow me to the feedback we have received from our various stakeholders. So we acknowledge the receipt of all comments submitted these inputs will be thoroughly evaluated as part of our review process. So now we will be presenting selected comments pertaining to specific provisions of the draft circular. We have received the comment from the Mr. Georgino S. Naval. So pertaining to Rule 1, Section 2.6 of the draft DC on competitive pricing, the proposed change is to clearly recognize the dual environmental and economic benefits of waste to energy, allowing fair tariff setting comparable to international practices. So he mentioned that this enables waste to energy to fight the current practice of using low-cost but harmful dump sites and non-sanitary landfills. So, for the comments related to ERC concerns, these suggestions will be raised with our focus group discussion on ERC as part of their rulemaking procedure. Next is from Rule 2, Section 1, Definition and Recognition. So it mentions here that the waste-to-energy projects shall be constructed and installed not later than 2027. So waste-to-energy projects that are installed and constructed in this period should be considered as pioneer waste-to-energy projects. So we have received a comment from Aboitiz Power Corporation that is respectfully proposing to extend the qualifying period for the project to be considered as a pioneer WTE project to 2031. So the reason for this is that this extension aims to encourage greater participation from the private sector in advancing WTE initiatives. So they also mentioned that the current deadline may not be feasible considering the time required for pre-development. So for this, the 2027 deadline was set in recognition of the urgent and growing challenges related to solid waste management and urban flooding. Delays in development of the WTE infrastructure increases the risk of landfill overflows, environmental pollution, methane emissions, and flood events caused by poor waste disposal and drainage system blockages. So we remain open to working with our stakeholders to address permitting and regulatory bottlenecks to help projects meet this 2027 deadline. So the 2027 target also leverages the support received from the Office of the President. So another comment we received for Rule 2 Section 1 is the clarification of the basis for the exclusive recognition of WTE project employing thermal combustion technology as pioneer waste-to-energy project. So we wish to clarify that the recognition of thermal combustion-based WTE facilities as pioneer WTE projects in the current draft circular, and this is based on the prevailing technology profile of projects in the development pipeline. So as of this writing, all waste-to-energy projects awarded, as well as those with submitted LOIs, employ thermal combustion. So we also acknowledge that while Section 30 of RA 9513 broadly defines waste-to-energy technologies to include other types of technologies such as anaerobic digestion, fermentation, and gasification, the pioneer WTE projects classification in the current policy context is intended to fast-track and support full-scale grid-connected WTE plants using commercially proven technology that addresses urgent waste and energy requirements. So another comment we received for Rule 2, Section 2.1 is the roles and responsibilities of the DOE. So the suggestion is to add a new paragraph that DOE in coordination with DILG and DNR shall establish a standard waste supply agreement template to ensure feedstock commitments of not less than 30 years for qualified projects. So this clearly ensures feedstock security, standardizes LGU agreements to avoid renegotiation risks caused by political turnover every 3 years. So we wish to acknowledge this comment, and you may refer to section 1.6 of Rule 3 of the draft BC, which we have provisions on assured feedstock for pioneer WTE projects. Next, another in the roles and responsibilities of the DOE is to ensure that pioneer WTE projects with offtake agreement under the JAP have assured feedstock supply. So this mentions additional provisions on at reasonable fixed prices on or reasonable prices adjusted based on inflation to give WTE proponents and prospective off-takers a reasonable degree of certainty on the fuel cost to be passed on to the consumers. So we wish to acknowledge this comment, and the DOE will negotiate with the local government units and other government entities on tipping fees and embodied in an appropriate agreement. So this will also be endorsed to ERC for the latter's consideration in setting the Green Energy Auction Reserve price. We've also received comments on the responsibilities of other government agencies, such as the ERC, particularly on the ERC pricing methodology. So the comment is to provide tariff predictability to make projects bankable and attractive to lenders. So this will align with the long asset life of waste-to-energy facilities. So all comments related to ERCs and the pricing methodologies will be raised on our focus group discussion with ERC. Next is the comment from section 1.1 Rule 3, which is the exemption from CSP. So we have received comments from Meralco that the proposed circular recognizes the DU's least cost supply mandate, and that supply from waste to energy must be contained in the PSPPs. So we would like to clarify on how will the DUs be able to comply with these mandates. How will a DU's compliance with the least cost mandate be determined, especially if PSAs with WTE will be exempted from CSP? So exemption from the CSP is applicable for non-JA pioneer waste-to-energy projects. However, even with this exemption, the DU is still required to conduct a rate impact assessment, or the RIA. The RIA serves as a crucial evaluation tool to ensure that the procurement of WTE power remains cost-effective and does not result in adverse impacts on consumer electricity rates. So through this assessment, the DU carefully examines the financial implications of the procurement and ensures alignment with its least cost supply mandate. Next is comments on the gear price determination. So again, this is relative to the ERC for the method and in calculating the gear price. And we will endorse these comments to the ERC for discussion on the price determination. And so again, we acknowledge the receipt of all comments submitted through email, and we will evaluate this as part of the review process. So at this juncture, we would like to open the floor for comments, clarifications, or additional inputs from the participants who have joined us today in the public consultation of the draft department circular. So for those who wish to raise a question or comment, please raise your hand and wait to be acknowledged before unmuting your microphone. So once recognized, kindly state your name, your affiliation, and the question or comment you wish to raise. Miss Maria Beatriz and Quintos, you are acknowledged. Please feel free to unmute.
Morning. This is Bayan from the PPP Center. We support the department circular, but we do have some clarification such that we note that some of these WTE projects will be pursued through a PPP modality, while the draft does already consider the role of the DOE in terms of coordinating with the PPP Center. We have some suggestions on how to improve the language to clarify that if a the WTE project will use the PPP code as a legal basis, then it should also follow the rules and procedures under the PPP code and its IRR. This is to not create confusion with the renewable energy service contracts, just to clarify the legal basis for some of the WTE projects. Yeah, and my question is also whether we can still submit written comments after this public consultation. Thank you.
Hi, ma'am. Yes, you may still submit your comments relative to your proposed language. Please feel free to still submit your proposed language and comments relative to the DC. So we will still accept comments until tomorrow, and please feel free to do so. It's attention. So, Attorney J. Live, you are acknowledged. Please feel free to unmute.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Can you
Good
hear
morning,
me?
sir. Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry for my voice. Anyway, I just want to highlight two items which were already also provided in some of the comments I've seen. Number one, 2027 is a target year. Please consider a much later year. I think we're all aware that building a WTE plant is longer than building a solar or wind farm. So 2027 is too early. We're hoping that you can consider as far as 2030. Anyway, all our JAP, previous JAP 1, 3, and 4, and even 5, the forthcoming, have considered projects until 2030. That's one. Number two, for criteria to become a pioneer project, I think it's important that any such project must have a BEOC, at the very least. And of course, compliance with RE 003. Finally, I also note there's a requirement on the DOST ETV, which really takes a long time. So rather than focusing on that, I think we can just focus on RA 9003 compliance. That's all for me for now. We'll submit our written comments as well. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Attorney J. Again, relative to the timeline for the 2027 timeline, we remain open to working with you, our stakeholders, to address this, and we will discuss this with our superiors on the possible extension of the timeline for the installation and construction of waste-to-energy projects.
Jen, if I may add,
Go ahead.
May we refer you to Rule 6, Section 1, Applicability and Transition. It says, unless otherwise amended or subject to subsequent issuances of the DOE, all rules applying to the Pioneer WTE projects shall likewise govern succeeding WTE projects. Okay. So, the qualification as Pioneer WTE project does not exclusively rely on construction and installation before end of 2027 based on Rule 6, Section 1 of the draft circular. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Attorney Phil, for the clarifications. And so again, we appreciate your comments, and all of this will still be thoroughly evaluated and incorporated. So we have received a comment from Meralco. We would like to confirm whether the generation from the Pioneer WTE project is recognized as RPS eligible.
We confirm that it is RPS eligible. Under the RPS rules, eligibility is determined by the date of commercial operations. If it is by the date of commercial operations and the technology used. Thank you.
So thank you, Attorney Phil. I hope that answers your question, Ma'am Julie. So another participant is raising his hand. Mr. Warren Patrick Belvis, you're acknowledged. Please feel free to unmute.
Yes, hello, good morning. Warren Belvis from San Miguel Global Power. I just would like to refer to the statement earlier saying that there's quite a small difference between Pioneer waste to energy projects and as far as incentives are concerned. According to rule, there was a rule mentioned. I'd like to ask what that difference, what that small difference is, because there has to be a benefit for the Pioneer over the succeeding projects, isn't there? Thank you.
Sir Warren, can we just circle back on who said that there is a small difference?
No, sorry, I was assuming that there was a small difference because you mentioned, attorney, that there is not that much difference between the Pioneer and the succeeding projects.
I believe what I said was Pioneer WTE projects, while eligibility rests on construction and installation before end of 2027, the benefits provided in the draft circular will be applied to subsequent WTE projects subject to subsequent issuances of the department.
All right.
I would recall if I said there is a small.
No, sorry. Because I that's where I'm coming from. So you mentioned that the applicability of the incentives from to be given to the Pioneer projects will be the same. Is that this is a clarification? I'm not in any way questioning anything. This is a clarification. So I'd like to clarify what this means, please.
It means that the assurance given to the WTE projects that will construct and install by 2028 is certain and confirmed by the department. The reality of sorry.
While the succeeding projects, sir, confirmed na po kasi yung di po ba? Sabi niyo po, confirmed na yung for the Pioneer. What about for the succeeding projects? Those that will be constructed after 2027.
Can you please refer to Rule 7, Section 1? There is a volatility there. Thank you.
Sige. Sir, what we will do is we'll refer to that, and then if we have questions, probably we'll just write the department.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joshua.
Thank you. Thank you, Sir Warren. Thank you, Attorney Fiel. We'll proceed with the next. Sir Joshua Soronio, you are acknowledged. Please feel free to unmute.
Yes, hi, good morning. I'm REMB. Joshua Serrano from Alatra Partners. So I have actually two questions. I'll start with the shorter one. On the benefits of WTE, so it effectively does address some of the emissions of waste as well. So I know in Rule 4, DOE is also looking into waste credit schemes. Are you also considering something linked to the carbon market? Because WTE does have some emissions avoidance impacts.
Thank you. Can we answer each question and then proceed to the next question that we have? So I'll answer the first question. In the recently issued carbon credits policy of the DOE, RE development is included among the eligible mitigation activities. RE development includes waste to energy projects.
Okay. I guess just to add to that, I do think it has a bit more of an avoidance impact as well. So maybe the weighting might be different, but I think that's up to DOE study. And my second question, I don't think I see it in the draft circular, the air quality impact of WTE. Understandably, these technologies already have embedded standards, but I think it would be good to emphasize stricter air quality guidelines for WTE projects. I don't think that the DENR's current air quality assessment covers these kinds of outputs.
We note your comment. There are general provisions in the draft circular on compliance with environmental laws, rules, and regulations that covers the Clean Air Act.
Thank you for that. I would just like to further emphasize that current laws on air quality might not cover these kinds of outputs. So please have a look at it as well. Thank you.
So, thank you for this comment, Sir Joshua Soronio. Again, we'd like to refer you to the newly issued DOE DC 2025-09-0018, which provides the general guidelines for generation, management, and monitoring of carbon credits in the energy sector. So it was mentioned there that RE development is acknowledged as one of the eligible mitigation activities. Also, relative to the air quality emissions, it is specifically provided in the DENR DAO 2019-021. So if we have other participants wishes to raise their questions, are there...
Okay naman. Yung carbon credit. Doc Burns.
So from Ms. Ma Fetres Puentes, coming from a local government unit perspective that eventually will be hosting a waste-to-energy project, how will DOE guidelines on waste-to-energy align with existing DENR EMB guidelines, such as RA 9003, which is very strict in terms of emissions coming from waste? So I believe this was already addressed. This is included in the draft DCs and mentioned specifically that all WTE projects shall contain their emission monitoring system and follow the guidelines provided by the DENR, especially for WTE projects employing direct combustion. So another question is from DOST ITDI. Good morning. Under Section 1, meron po bang official document from the DOE that allows municipal solid waste considered as RE source? Thank you po. Composition paper. And so again, the question is relative to MSW. So is this considered on RE source?
Thank you. I'm trying to look for the definition of renewable energy under the RE Act, so I can. Our legal services has previously issued an opinion stating that MSW complies with the definition of renewable energy under the RE Act. Renewable energy is defined in the RE Act as energy resources that do not have an upper limit on the total quantity to be used. Such resources are renewable on a regular basis and whose renewal rate is relatively rapid to consider availability over an indefinite period of time. The fact that MSW is continually generating, in fact, even increasing annually, satisfies the definition of RE as renewable without an upper limit, renewable on a regular basis, and whose renewal rate is relatively rapid over an indefinite period of time. Thank you.
So thank you, Attorney Fiel, for that clarification on MSW as an RE resource. So another comment is from Mr. Georgino Naval. Second question would be great to qualify also which carbon credit standard if there will be one. Sa carbon credit standards.
That will still be that the carbon credits policy is being handled by our planning bureau. We will coordinate with the EPPB and provide a clarification of your query once we present the consolidated replies.
Thank you, Attorney Fiel. So, proceeding with the next question from the chat box from Mr. Nick C. When can we expect the list of highly urbanized cities or cluster LGUs that will be part of this waste-to-energy project?
The department is currently finalizing the terms of reference for the special auction round on WTE. The notice of auction will be site-specific, and that will include the list of HUCs or cluster of LGUs. Our intended issuance tentatively is early November of this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Fiel, for that clarification on the expected list of HUCs and LGUs. So next is from Ms. Maria Fe Tres Puentes. So I missed the readings of some important provisions of the proposed DOEDC on WTE, but we wish to convey that sometimes the struggles on this type of project is the land use plan of a locality. How are this being coordinated as such? This priority project can be integrated in the CLUP to address social acceptability issues.
Specifically for the special auction round for WT, given the provision on assured feedstock in this draft list, we have been coordinating with certain LGUs on assured feedstock. We will bring this matter up with them on the permit for land use so that we can have a better understanding on how to address challenges that may come during project implementation. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Fiel. So for the next question, it also is requesting to the DOE to consider the project timeline to be longer to 2028 or 2029 as the WTE projects require minimum 24 to 33 months for construction or commissioning. So I believe questions or comments relative to the timeline was already addressed earlier, and we acknowledge the concerns of our stakeholders. So again, this will be raised on our meetings with our technical working group. So next is comment from Christine Gayem, representative of iSwims. How important is having ample feedstock supply in the selection of projects? What are the specific criteria to be considered concerning feedstock supply in terms of availability and quality?
Selection of projects you mean for the JEA or as Pioneer WFE project? For this circular, selection of project does not happen. Eligibility as Pioneer WTE project is complied upon construction and installation under this current draft. Upon construction and installation before end of 2027. No selection is done. It's a factual determination on whether a WTE project was able to construct and install by end of 2027.
And so I hope that clarifies your question regarding the feedstock concerns. So next is from Miss Julie Dulce. May request for a copy of the opinion cited by Attorney Fiel in response to this question. So
can we formally ask you to send us a letter request for a copy of that opinion, and we will have it vetted by our legal services.
So, Ms. Julie, please feel free to send an email, formal request for the this specific opinion. So, comment from Attorney Rio Balaba on the volume requirement for multiple pioneer. So, I think this was already addressed earlier. Moving on to Sir Philip Desalia, the question is, if the issuance of LGU list is not provided on time, will this mean adjustment of the 2027 timeline?
Sir Phil, it will mean that we were unable to comply with the Secretary's directive. Our task is really to issue the LGU list through the notice of action under the JEA. So we don't want to disappoint the Secretary. We are in the final stages of the drafting of the terms of reference, and we are set to comply with the timeline that was given to us. So we don't want to explore what will happen because we are really focused on having the DOA issued on time. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Attorney Phil. So another question from Sir Phil is that the proposed DC provides grid connection as waste to energy may not be considered large generator, so it can connect as embedded generator. Thus, provisions that will include DU and PDC are requested to consider. This is one of the comments of Meralco Power Gen.
We recognize receipt of the comments, and it has been included in the consolidated comments that we will submit to the Office of the Secretary and to be discussed with our principals.
So thank you, Attorney Phil, again. From Mr. Nick, can a foreign company participate in this WTE project?
Yes, WTE is not restricted to Filipinos or Filipino-owned corporations.
So I hope that clarifies your concern on foreign ownership. Next is, I think, another concern relative to the technology. From Mr. Jose Capote of Met Power, we would like to suggest that DOE consider the allowance of the integration of mechanical biological treatment either as an integrated as an additional component accompanying the thermal combustion technology as a standalone. So this MBT provides meaningful benefits for GHG reductions for biodegradable waste.
Additional timeline.
Hindi additional technology MBT kasi it's specific for direct conversion.
Plus. We will consider and submit to the Office of the Secretary. Thank you.
So thank you for that comment. And moving on to the next from Ms. Nina Galang. If the contracts include assurance of waste as feedstock, municipalities will not take measures to reduce waste. More waste means more manufacture of more items from natural resources.
Ms. Nina, postulates such as these can be seriously considered only if it is based on evidence. Can we then request a position paper to be submitted so that we can evaluate the claim based on the documentary support? Thank you.
So thank you, Attorney Phil, for that clarification. So again, the goal of this waste to energy project is to address our concerns on municipal solid waste and not to generate more waste. So an additional comment from Mr. Nico Calderon is that does a partial or modular commissioning by 2027 meet COD requirements for larger capacity rewards?
Under the current wording of the POR for the special auction round for WTE projects, COD is determined or rests on the entirety of the facility being issued a power COC by the ERC. If, for instance, the WTE facility has a separate dedicated metering facility for 2 gensets, and the partial or modular commissioning is on a per generator unit basis, and power COC is issued for the first gen unit. Then that can comply with the requirement to commercially operate by delivery commencement year 2028. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Phil. Moving on to comment of Ms. Rochelle. Are there any specific conditions for the waste to energy inputs, exclusion of recyclables and non-combustible waste?
The determination on what will be delivered to what MSW will be delivered to the WTE project rests on the LD. We understand that there are rules governing rules issued by the DNR governing MSW and solid waste management. Our circular provides that WTE projects must comply with all environmental laws, rules, and regulations. So that is an assurance that we can give our stakeholders on the environmental compliance of WTE projects. Thank you.
So another question is that if the waste to energy company can secure offtake for waste heat, does that impact on tariff charged under the PPA or electricity sales?
I think that would be an additional revenue stream for the WTE developer.
So, moving on from Sir Philip Dasalia, again, concern on the carbon credits. Is there any prioritization to where the carbon credits be traded, domestic or international market?
We have to coordinate Sir Phil with EPTV on this and provide a reply.
And so again, for carbon credits mechanisms and concerns, we'll relay all queries to our EPPB who handles the DC and all other guidelines relative to the carbon credits. So another comment is from Mr. Enrico Medina. In Section 1, it is provided that waste-to-energy facilities convert MSW, industrial waste, and other eligible feedstocks. Municipal solid waste already include non-hazardous industrial waste. So please define industrial waste as used in the DC, and also please define eligible feedstock. So Sir Enrico, we take note of these comments and we'll go thoroughly with our definitions of this specific definitions for the eligible feedstocks. Suggestions.
Let us address Ms. Nina Galang's comment. She says, isn't it logical? I think the logic may differ from the evidence. That's why we're asking if there is evidentiary support for the claim. We would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Fiel. So moving on from RVC, what kind of support can we get from the government since we know for a fact that waste to energy is very new in the Philippines, and as per our experience, mistakes can be made. So from Greenkel Innovative Solutions, Mr. Roland Veracruz.
The Pioneer WTE circular is a major step that is being undertaken by the department to extend assistance needed to integrate the WTE in the country's power generation mix. If you look at the various roles and responsibilities of the DOE, ERC, REMB, BEMD, other stakeholders, the TNPSO, the vision is to have a whole of government approach to make the WTE projects, project implementation smoother, more efficient. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Fiel. Ayan. Next is from Mr. Jose Capote of Met Power. Can DOE consider that proponents can submit a conditional feedstock supply agreement or memorandum of understanding during pre-qualification with the final executed FSA may be submitted prior to financial closing. Upon confirmation by the DOE through the REMB in coordination with the MMDA, that waste flow assurance has been secured for the project.
Thank you for the question. That provision should be clarified. The provisions in the circular on assured feedstock obliges the department to enter into negotiations with LGUs or clusters of LGUs. The post-auction document requirement in the draft circular was conceptualized on the premise that DOE and the specific LGU or cluster of LGUs will already have a MOA wherein the LGU commits to supply MSW to the winning bidders in the special auction round for WTE. And number two, to commit to enter into a feedstock supply agreement with the winning bidder. The feedstock supply agreement, upon signing between the winning bidder and the LGU, will be submitted as part of the auction agreement. That was the thinking behind that provision. We did not mean to say that the FSA should be procured based on the efforts of the WTE developer. That provision should be related to the provision on assured feedstock. We are still looking into ways to make it more efficient for the WTE winning bidder to have an assured feedstock. We will come out with the final arrangement after our negotiations with the LG. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Fiel. So, to Mr. Jose Capote, I hope that sufficiently answered your query. So, for the last question that we will entertain for this public DC consultation is that who will determine the site where the waste to energy will be built? Who will provide the land?
The site will be determined by the department through the notice of auction. The land, similar to other operating contracts, should be the obligation to have the rights to use the land where the WTE project will be located rests on the WTE project proponent.
So again, we wish to thank our stakeholders for all your valuable comments, inputs, and recommendations to the finalization of this draft DC. So due to time constraints, we acknowledge all questions and concerns. But if you have any remaining questions or detailed suggestions, especially if you have suggested wordings or preferred language, please feel free to submit your comments through email via remb9513@doe.gov.ph and remb.biomass2@doe.gov.ph until tomorrow, October 24, 2025. So all of your submissions will be. So we wish to reiterate that all comments will be received until tomorrow, October 24, 2025 of 5 p.m. And all submissions will be carefully reviewed by the technical working group. So we will provide the email where you can send your comments in the chat box for easier reference. So thank you everyone. We wish to appreciate and thank you for your insights, and as these are highly valued for the refinement of the draft circular.
So to officially close today's public consultation, we will now hear the closing message from the Director of the Renewable Energy Management Bureau, Attorney Marisa P. Cerezo.
Sound.
Wala pa rin daw. Naglag ka? Ikaw na. So again, thank you to our Director Cerezo for the forward-looking closing remarks. We have reached the conclusion of our virtual public consultation. So on behalf of the DOE team, we want to sincerely thank of all of our panelists, our technical team, and most especially to all our participants from the various sectors for your active engagement. So we look forward to receiving your final comments via REMB 9513 at doe.gov.ph and remb.biomass2 at doe.gov.ph until tomorrow, October 24, 2025 at 5 p.m. So we have shared the QR code for the link for the comment formats and guidelines. So feel free to take a photo of this QR code if you wish to have the comment formats. So thank you once again for your time, invaluable input and cooperation. Stay safe everyone and have a good day.